Hey, and welcome to GoodUI Evidence Test 66, 3 versus 4 checkout steps. It's a really interesting test submitted by Claire Vignon-Kesser from Wider Funnel. So thanks so much for sharing this. Wider Funnel is a really amazing optimization agency, and I wanted to go over this really interesting test, which was tagged as a smaller commitment test. So essentially breaking stuff up into smaller, more yet smaller steps. The test was ran for a shopping cart, and the key intent was to increase sales. So you see here, that's the primary metric. And it starts off at the shopping cart for a company here with something already being added, some sort of product being added in the cart. And there's a couple changes actually here, which I wanted to discuss. So I think the biggest change is the separation of essentially the billing step here, which contains both the cart, so that's what the person has in the cart, as well as the billing information and payment options are kind of present here. And I think the main thing that changed here was that this billing information and the payment options were separated out onto a separate step 2. So that's where you see the billing and payment, and essentially the first step only has the cart with the upsells. So I think that's the biggest change, and the effect, the possible 5.5% increase to sales, I think can be attributed to heavily to that. Although I think looking at this test a little bit in more detail, we can also see that there's some other minor changes that were kind of grouped with this test. Some of these include you might notice also there's a separation not only of the steps but also of here, for example, we have what's in the cart, which is in the first row, ScreenFlow 4, and then all the upsells are kind of grouped together. And the variation here, these were separated into two separate sections. So here we have the cart, and then here we have the recommended add-ons. So that's another thing that changed here as well. A third thing you might notice is there's an increase in contrast for the calls to action. So here the checkout is blue, whereas the headlines are also, or subsections are also blue. Whereas here, checkout has been consistently colored as green, which makes it stand out a little bit more. Another thing is there's a more consistent axis of completion. So for some of the kind of upsells and the repeated button. So whereas here you have the add on all the upgrades on the right hand side and checkout on the right hand side, the repeated call to action at the bottom is on the left hand side, whereas here we have a one aligned kind of axis of completing certain actions, all aligned together. Fifth, we have in the variation, we also have more consistent button labels. So in the control, you might see checkout, and then the repeated, essentially checkout, is actually called continue. So we have checkout and continue, which is slightly inconsistent. Whereas here, Wider Funnel fixed that, and they actually have a more consistency: checkout and then checkout. Okay. And one last thing, minor thing, there is a slightly less prominent, maybe more traditional progress bar. So whereas here we have this progress bar looking like almost like a subsection. Here we have the kind of rounded style for these steps. Again, I mean, all these minor things, they probably somehow contributed to this effect. I am guessing that the largest, again, change is this break of the separation of the billing, the single step here into two steps, as noticed here. Okay. Thanks for watching. If you have other comments, other things, other changes that you think might have contributed to this effect, or if you agree, disagree, feel free to share in the comments. All right. Thanks.